Emerald ash borer is an exotic metallic wood-boring beetle from the family Buprestidae. It's closely related to some of our native pests, such as bronze birch borer, which attacks birch trees, and two-line chestnut borer, which attacks oak trees. The damaging life stage are the larvae, or immature forms, which feed beneath the bark to kill ash trees within about 2 to 5 years, depending on the population size. If populations are low, for example from a new infestation, it can take trees roughly 5 years to succumb to damage. If it's a well-established infestation, trees can die in as little as 2 to 3 years. Since its introduction to the Detroit area approximately a decade ago, tens of millions of ash trees have already been killed in the U.S. There are several key costs associated with the emerald ash borer. In terms of economic impacts, we have the costs associated with insecticide treatments. These are both for homeowners but also for local governments and municipalities that have to treat portions of their urban forests. Costs for annual insecticide treatments can range from about $25 for a small ash tree to over $100 for larger trees. We also have costs for monitoring efforts such as the purple prism traps by the state government and other surveys as well, such as branch sampling and bark peeling to look for emerald ash borer larvae. We can also have costs associated with tree removal. These can vary quite a bit depending on the size and location of a tree, for example, if you had a large dead tree in an urban area that was posing a risk of injury to people or other property, removal costs could be quite high. It could be $1,000 or more to have an arborist come in and remove that tree. We also have costs associated with preemptive removal and replacement of trees before emerald ash borer gets to an area. In addition, we'll have some loss of timber revenue. Historically, ash trees have been utilized for their hard wood to make items such as tool handles and baseball bats, and with the ultimate loss of ash trees from the forest setting, we're going to have to shift our timber uses to other tree species. EAB is also going to have several major ecological impacts. We're going to have some shift in the composition of our forests, which can have trickle-down effects to other organisms in the ecosystem. In a worst-case scenario, we could be facing the potential extinction of an entire group of ash species in North America. As a result of ash being removed from both the urban and forest settings, our overall biodiversity is going to go down. Lastly, there are certain cultural impacts that are going to come about due to emerald ash borer. Many cities had planted ash trees extensively, especially at Dutch elm. Dutch elm had come through and wiped out many of our urban elm trees. As a result of that, many cities in Wisconsin planted a lot of ash trees decades ago. If we lose these ash trees, the entire feel of the urban areas is going to change as that mature canopy is removed. In addition, some Native American groups in the state have traditionally used ash trees for various activities. An example of this would be using black ash in the northern part of the state for basket weaving and other items. Several characteristics of emerald ash borer make it highly invasive. Unlike its closely related native species, such as bronze birch borer and two-line chestnut borer, which primarily attack stressed or injured trees, emerald ash borer will attack both stressed and healthy trees. In addition, emerald ash borer is difficult to detect. This is partially due to its small size, but also due to the fact that infestations start high up in the canopy and can be hard to see at first. As mentioned earlier, it can take up to 5 years or so for a tree to die from emerald ash borer. As a result, by the time we figure out that EAB is in an area, it's often well established and may have spread elsewhere. Another reason why emerald ash borer is invasive is its ability to easily be transported in firewood or other wood products. It's believed that this insect originally got into the U.S. Through solid wood packing material. These are materials used to stabilize crates, pallets, and other things like that for shipping purposes, and it's believed that larvae were in that, were brought over from Asia, and they think that that's how emerald ash borer got into the country. Emerald ash borer is native to portions of Asia, including China, Japan, and Korea. It's thought that this insect was brought over to the U.S. in solid wood packing materials. These are strips of wood used to stabilize crates and pallets, things like that. Decades ago, these materials were not treated in terms of being heat treated or chemically treated, and so insects could survive in strips of wood, survive the the transport to the U.S., and then we have an invasion on our hands. Emerald ash borer was first detected in Detroit, greater Detroit area in 2002. By the time we actually figured out that it was in Michigan, the infestation was well established and had actually spread via infested firewood, nursery stock, and other materials. As a result, infestations were discovered soon in Ontario as well as Ohio and Indiana shortly thereafter. In the summer of 2008, emerald ash borer was discovered just north of Milwaukee in Newburgh, Wisconsin. Due to the difficulty with the early detection of this pest, the infestation in Newburgh had actually likely been there several years by the time we discovered it in the state. Fast forwarding to today, emerald ash borer is now found in 22 U.S. states and 2 Canadian provinces. Here's a current map of known emerald ash borer infestations as of early February 2014, and we can really see from the map that southeastern Michigan, greater Detroit area was really the epicenter of this thing, and it has radiated outward from there. As a result, states such as Illinois, especially the Chicago area, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, these are the states that are the most heavily infested. It was thought that the Great Plains would kind of serve as a natural barrier to this insect because there's very few ash trees in states such as Kansas and Nebraska except for along riverways. And so we thought that this would help prevent the westward spread. However, it's interesting to note on the map here that one of our most recent finds was actually in the greater Denver area out in Colorado. And it's likely the result of infested firewood being transported, and so this really reinforces just how easily this insect can be spread if you move infested firewood. For the most recent version of the map, check out the link at the very bottom of this page to the National Emerald Ash Borer website, which is emeraldashborer.info. As mentioned earlier, the first detection of emerald ash borer in the state was in Newburgh, Wisconsin, which is just north of Milwaukee, and it's situated basically right on the Washington-Ozaukee County line. Currently, almost all the counties in southeastern Wisconsin have known infestations and are under quarantine for this insect. After the southeastern Wisconsin infestation, the next biggest story for emerald ash borer is the find along the Mississippi. And we currently have 4 counties under quarantine: Vernon, Crawford, La Crosse, and Trempealeau counties along the Mississippi, which have EAB infestations and are currently under quarantine. In 2013, we saw several new infestations in the state. We had a find at Mirror Lake State Park and also a find in Madison, which led to both Sauk and Dane counties being added to the quarantine. Another interesting occurrence in 2013 was a find up in Superior, Wisconsin, in the very far northwestern corner. No other known infestations really close to it, and so it's thought that this infestation may have been due to some infested firewood being transported up there. At the moment, our tally stands at 21 quarantine counties in the state.